on right now.
Every day at 5. So stay tuned and you'll have something to talk about over dinner tonight with Hawaii's Tomorrow today. That's Hawaii's Tomorrow.
Kauai, oh Kauai, love it or leave it, love it or leave it, Hanele kapa elevator, lawai no koi. Oh, Kauai, love it or leave it. What do you think? Love it or leave it. That's what the right-wingers used to tell the hippies about how come they were saying bad things about America. You don't like America? Love it or leave it. You don't like the fact that your corporations rule you and rule the world, Mr. Beale, then you better just get on out of here, young haired hippie looking skin. Okay? I mean, nothing against people who have an accent like that. I'm just making a point here. Loving it or leaving it. And yet, I sang a song, Kauai, love it or leave it. And we're going to be talking today about that type of mentality in the sense that there's a different kind of love. There's a love of the Aina. There's a love for sustainability. And it doesn't have to follow politics, which, as history has proven, doesn't always turn out best for us, at least. I'll be introducing my guest here real soon, Jerry La Pietra from Kauai. This show will be pushing right towards GMOs, and it's a perfect day for it. If you read the newspaper today, what's happening? I'll get to that subject right just a second. Let me go now. Thank my guest from yesterday. Great interview with Mr. Paul Stanford. And Paul has medical marijuana as well as hemp. Selling, well, he was selling hemp products imported from other countries since, if you heard the show yesterday, America for some reason decided back in 1937 that industrial hemp, which does not get you high, cannot get you high, and will never get you high, was made illegal along with the other cannabis in order to get it off the market to keep it from competing with oil and textiles and paper from trees and CO2 emissions to the atmosphere by using fossil fuel. It's a travesty, it's a cover-up, and it is definitely a conspiracy to keep this off, to keep it out. I mean, I hate to say the word conspiracy because I'm on the radio. People are going to start thinking I'm George Norrie, who has guests trying to sell their nutcase cookcase book. But it really is the government about how industrial hemp is bad for you, in which case they got it off the market, just so the people who run the corporations, DuPont, Hearst and his paper mills, etc., could keep their little game and rig the game. And that was that show, and I'd like to thank him for it. I got a phone call today from Mr. Roger Christie, and where did he call me from? Oh, he called me from the federal penitentiary, of course. He's been there for 2 pounds of pot, for anything in his life. He was arrested, but they ended up paying him $75,000 in a Maui case for false arrest. He had 400 pounds of sterile hemp seed used for food. Anyway, he's languishing in prison. I'll be doing a show about him very soon. This Thursday, I'll be doing both GMO and the Roger Christie issue. We're going to have a very interesting take on it from an individual who's a research analyst, Mr. Brant Kelsey, who's going to tell us why he's in jail and why he basically deserves to be there in the sense that he screwed up his own defense. And be very interesting. Also, Mr. Kelsey has done incredible work on the background of GMO companies, where they're from, how they morphed into what they are today. If you saw the paper today, nuclear plant spews radioactive water. Why do I bring that up? Because I'll make a point. I am the solar guy, and radioactive water is basically oil at $200 a barrel for us. If suddenly we have a disaster, and oil goes $200 a barrel, we're going to be in the same position basically as these people who have their nuclear plant melted down, and now it's going to be a disaster. Which brings me to an article in the paper today. Mr. Richard Ha, been on the show countless times, says here, Elko deal would be costly for Oahu tax ratepayers. What's he talking about? He's talking about biofuel. And HECO's trying to get, or HEI Incorporated, going to sign a deal with Aina Ko'opona, in other words, people who want to make biofuel. Now, that's a real tree-hugging idea, isn't it? Yeah. Well, so's a wind farm. Don't try putting one in your backyard, I got to tell you. It's a bad idea. So's a geothermal plant. That might not be so good in your backyard. And, of course, laying a cable. This whole thing is so upside down, you blow your mind. So anyway, cut a deal for $200 a barrel, equivalent of $200 per barrel for this biofuel. And then you're going to make the people on Oahu pay for 80% of it. And they're going to make the people on the Big Island pay for the other 20%. And the only reason they're not making the people on the Big Island pay for all of it is they obviously couldn't afford it. What's Mr. Ha's point? Mr. Ha's point, of course, he's the owner of Hamakua Springs Farms. He's on the geothermal legislative panel. He is also a member of the Big Island Commission. And Mr. Ha's been saying for quite a while, this biofuel is a horrible idea. If you read his article, you'll see all about what I'm talking about. $200 a barrel for biofuel, when in fact, when oil does get to the $150 level, it oftentimes goes back down. One day it won't. It will be a nuclear spill of the same economic proportions for Hawaii. What's the point? Point is, we need to change the way our elected officials get elected. Because what I see in common with all this, and including the cable, now the cable was supposed to go from the kind Lanai and Molokai, maybe touch base on Maui, and then come to and feed Oahu. Have you ever heard of a more stupid idea than going to places like Molokai and Lanai and covering them with windmills? It's just stupid. It ain't going to happen. Okay? These people are not going to. But of course, when windmills to the legislature and give money to the re-election campaigns of various people, depending on how important they are, suddenly it's a great idea. We must look into this, and we must have HECO spend millions of dollars to tell us how much it will cost. And then we will have the PUC tell us that the ratepayers are going to pay for the studies, which will never fly. Because it's a bad idea. Horrible idea. You know what's another horrible idea? Biofuel. The current cost of biofuel, especially ironically Hawaiian, is ripe for geothermal. And if done properly, it would be a boon for that island, if not the state of Hawaii. So that's what's going on right now, except for the solar issue. And I talked to Mike Gabbard. He is our environmental chair senator for the state of Hawaii. Mike called me up not 15 minutes ago. Bless his heart. He knew I was going live at 5. And he wanted to let me know what had happened. And I already knew, of course, that on last Friday, the powers that be had put the new solar tax credit bill in the garbage can. That's right. After all the work from so many people with so much at stake, they put it in the trash can. And here was the quotes from Mike himself, Senator Mike Gabbard, and his office just 15 minutes ago. Number one, the reason they shelved it was because they had no numbers as to whether, in other words, they had no data. Now, UH professor of economy Tom Laudat has been on my show regularly. In fact, he was on 4 days ago with the Cato Institute, an economist from there. And he was commissioned by Blue Planet Foundation, a sponsor of our show, to do a study. The second time in his career he's been asked. He was asked by the state of Hawaii previously 10 years ago, what is the effect of a solar tax credit on the economy? And the answer was, for every dollar in credit spent, there's just like $14 return. But due to all kinds of money moving through the marketplace, people going to work, avoidance of cost of oil, you name it. But when the legislature asked the tax office to supply them with numbers, they just didn't do it. And in the end, the tax office, from what the scoop is, stepped in at in the last moment behind closed doors and said, we really don't want this, however they did it. They said it, we really don't want this thing to change. We didn't provide you with any data to help you with it, but take our word for it. This is where we want it to stay. And when I say the tax office, and again, this is not coming from Gabbard's office, this is coming from truly solar guy Jeff Davis. When I say the tax office, I'm saying the governor's office. Mm-hmm. Okay, so the governor is the one who, I wouldn't say he did, but he worked a little when he punished the solar industry for these idiot companies going out there and abusing the system by putting too many inverters on the side of a house. And you know who you are. And guess what? I have a great little tidbit from you folks. Heard a rumor today that the tax office is going to audit all these people. Something I've been asking for so long. An audit to get back the ill-gotten tax credits. And I would also like to see some sort of legal action taken against the companies who pursued that type of business, where they put inverter after inverter on the side of a house just to make tax credits. Had nothing to do with the efficiency of the system. And that is illegal, and you guys go out there and audit those people. I recommend you start with ones who have 10 of them on the side of their house. The people who made them, the inverters themselves, came to my show and said you're the only place on the planet Earth where they didn't just buy the one that fits what's up there. Obviously, these companies did it in order to game the system. So the governor reacts, and unfortunately, he overreacted in many ways. The credit is still there. It's even better hotter now. It's still there. If you have questions about it, obviously, you get to me, 554-7200, your solar guy, Jeff Davis. All right, beautiful. Let's do it. Let me put on my lovely little headphones. And let me introduce my lovely guest today. And I hope I get her name right the first time. Ms. Terry La Pietra. Did I get it correct, Terry?
Jerry with the J, Jeff.
That is my board fault 100%. My other guest coming in later is someone you know, and that is Terry Lilie. We're going to be talking GMO. We're going to be talking reef coral disease and the interrelationship between them. And again, Jerry, tell us who you are and where you're coming from and your organization, etc.
With GMO-free Kauai and Hawaii Seeds, we are groups of volunteers. We are consumers, teachers, nurses, farmers, and we have recognized the unintentional consequences of Hawaii being the ground zero for genetically modified test crops. So we go mainly educate others, so that everyone knows what GMO is and why we are concerned, why we think it is not being watched.
Well, that's why you're on my show today, because we are going to educate. And again, on an educational basis, we need, what would that word be? We need data coming from established sources. In other words, we can't just be a bunch of tree-hugging, dope-smoking hippies who are concerned about the environment, even though that's just fine with me. If we want to change public opinion, let's listen to what they had to say in Europe today. This comes out of Reuters, New York Times from Paris. The European Commission will enact a 2-year ban on a class of pesticides thought to be harmful and harming global bee populations. Okay? Pesticides harming global bee populations. 71 of the 100 crops that provide 90% of human food are pollinated by bees. They went on to say they made the announcements on a proposal to ban the pesticides. And by the way, we're talking about what's happening on Kauai today. Same pesticide, herbicides. It says that they proposed the ban recommended in January. They be restricted until scientists determine whether they're contributing to the bee problem. Let's see, who doesn't like that idea? That would be a Swiss company called Syngenta. You ever heard of those guys, Jerry?
Yes, I have. They're over here on Kauai.
Okay, so Syngenta's out of Switzerland, and they're, of course, pushing back, going, what you doing? You can't prove anything. You can't prove anything. We have to go forward with this. Here we go again. Environmental Protection Agency over its approval of the products. The bottom line is that this is a huge pushback on what's happening on in a continent, let alone an island the size of Kauai. Let us move to the front page of the newspaper today, where we see a little spiel. Seed grower moving research center to Kauai. I have some bad news for you. Did you read that?
I heard that in my email. Oh, no.
All right, here it is. Front page of the money section, top fold. Syngenta moving seed research facility to Kauai. Seed crop, Syngenta will move its Hawaii research operations from Oahu. Most of the workers in Kunia will be offered jobs on Kauai. And by the way, lucky you. You don't know how lucky you are. Forward. Their other operations will not be affected. They have about 4,000 acres on Oahu and Kauai, blah, blah, blah. So the bad news is that these guys are coming for you big time, okay? And I'm just curious, how long ago did GMO-free Kauai begin?
We began, it's been 10 years. We started in 2002. GMOs were taking over a lot of the closed-up sugar land, and I think people really realized that genetic modification was really about. These chemical companies started buying up hundreds and hundreds of seed companies in an attempt to begin to patent all of the seeds and begin to modify them to make them herbicide tolerant and to make them produce their own insecticides. So this is farming like, nothing that had happened before. This is a transformational process that mixed unrelated species into our food supply.
Okay, so again, these GMO companies, first thing they did was bought up the seed companies. Is that correct?
Right.
All right. Let us make, and I'll be calling you after the show. Let us make a real simple 101. When all the folks on Kauai and Maui and Molokai and Oahu, these crops up, generically corn crops going up, we all just assumed they were growing corn. Wow, we're going to have a lot of fresh corn on the table in the markets. But no, these are corns that never reach. They're not growing food for Hawaii. So the valuable ag land that they're currently occupying does not provide locally grown food for all the right reasons. In fact, the valuable ag land is being sprayed with a cocktail experimental poison to help these things. Scientific experiment in progress here from the GMO companies, correct?
That's right, Jeff.
Now, there are more GMO companies in Hawaii than any other one place on the world. And after talking to Terry Lilly today in the book that he's reading, what's it called? Perhaps you know, Jerry, Face Hawaii's Future?
Yes, that's our Hawaii Seed publication. We just released our second edition of that, and it's free for anyone who would like that.
The Kauai is the home to the largest open-air GMO experimentation on the planet Earth?
That's right. We have more permits for test crops than any other place in the world. And
Okay.
we feel these chemical companies, not only are they, dirtying the soil, but they're using our nice, clean water resources in huge amounts.
Well, as we're going to hear in a few minutes from marine biologists, discovered of bacteria that have combined and never have done so before and are eating the coral at such a rate that it's become a center for disease control issue. There's a possibility that it has a lot to do with a genetically modified organism getting into the ocean. You're going to just hate to hear this. I got bad news for you. And Terry will be with us in just a minute, about 10 minutes. Okay, so one more time to set the stage. A GMO company is basically an herbicide/pesticide company who's trying to corner the market on plants for human consumption so that people will run out and buy their poison to spray onto the plants to kill the weeds. Is that it?
That's right. These companies are Pioneer DuPont, Dow, Syngenta, BASF, and Monsanto. The biggest chemical companies in the world. They call them the Big Six. The sixth one, Bayer, the one that makes the neonicotinoid seed coating. That's today, as you said, was banned in Europe with thoughts that it is related to the honeybee die-off. So these huge chemical corporations have made a home here in our state.
They made a home in our state and they did it very sneakily. And now, since you guys apparently you had no hopes of stopping them, what I've got is that what you did instead initially right now, you took one step and said, well, let's label the food that has GMO. A lot of the GMO activists here went for that, low road. And of course, the legislature tabled that idea. And you know why they did that? They're pretty much ignorant. I don't think legislators, no matter how much and their ilk give them would do it at the cost of people's lives, but isn't that exactly what's on the line here, people's lives?
It really is, because this food has come on to into the food supply totally unregulated. In the 1990s, they passed a law to say that GMO food is a substantial equivalent to conventional food, so no further testing was required. That's why it doesn't even have to be labeled. But corn that is Roundup resistant and produce its own insecticide, it shouldn't really be called corn. You know, if it's unique enough to patent, it should actually
I agree.
be unique, yeah, and be labeled if we're going to even come close to using it.
10 years. Are you an original member of GMO Kauai?
So,
How do you keep it up? I don't understand how this thing died off.
You know, we take good care of each other. You know, I don't know if we knew what we were getting into really when we started.
I'll guarantee you did not.
Yeah, but so we tried a hardline, a moratorium on GMO of taro. That seems like a really reasonable thing, but we weren't able to get that passed the state legislature. We passed that at the county level, though. Maui and the Big Island, Hawaii County, have banned GMO taro and GMO coffee on Hawaii Island. And those were good wins, and Maui, of course, it includes Molokai, so that was a step. But, you know, we can't really get any information as to what's being sprayed, what chemicals are being applied, and where. The kids get very sick.
I tell you what, that's the point of this. What people do not understand, that the GMO companies are here and they affect us all. And whether or not you worry about what goes into your body, these guys are using our islands and our climate and our water and our land to experiment. They are scientific experiments. They even pay taxes, culture would, because it's science. They're mixing together genes, animal genes into plant genes, spider genes into pig genes. Have you read all this stuff in your book? That's from your book, correct?
Yes, that's true.
And this is all information released by them, and you guys, a PhD's gotten it together. In other words, we're being used. This is perfect. Whatchamacallit, theme or a plot for a Hollywood movie. Yeah, movies. It's life is always greater than fiction, and now we have a reef disease, and if that thing ends up being connected to this, they will make a Hollywood movie with that plot about how it gets loose, spreads through Hawaii, and then spreads to the whole wide world, and pretty soon everybody's dead because the oceans are dead. How do you like that idea?
I know. If the oceans die, look out. You know, we have got to stop this runoff, this dust, this unregulated and irresponsible use of.
All right, let's see again if we can sum it up. So here's a field, and I've seen them on Molokai and on Kauai, and there's houses and neighborhoods right across the highway or the street from this field. And these guys come. I've seen people on Molokai with huge signs in their yards saying, "Come on, you're killing my family." And what they'll do is they'll come out there and they'll spray and they'll spray and they'll spray, and they're experimenting with poison. And that stuff is obviously going into the air and going across the street and going into the lungs of the folks who live there. And they harvest what they've got. Didn't you tell me it takes 10 plantings to get the thing genetically evolved to where they want it?
That's right. It would take them about 10 years on the mainland. They're able to do it here in about 3.5. So we're getting 3 years worth of chemicals in a single year.
3 years of chemicals in a single year. And they've been chased out of the mainland by so many states, are they not?
No, they are grown in a lot of the states. Some of the counties have banned GMOs. Marin County in the Bay Area is GMO-free. And, you know, something to be against it, but in the real sense, what we are for is aloha aina. We want to be able to be food secure, and this irresponsible science is getting in the way of that.
Okay, so let's again get graphic. So, first of all, if or the other guys are out there just spraying gobs and gallons and tons and of this herbicide / pesticide, whatever cocktail they've cooked up that day. as an experiment, and they're doing science. And then right across the road, here comes all the human beings and their pets, and they're consuming the same stuff as part of the experiment, only they didn't sign up for it and don't get paid for it. And I don't think they're looking for positive results from herbicides and pesticides in human beings. And then the next thing you know, they'll harvest their seed, and then they'll till the fields, and the next thing you know, your house has got a 1/16 of an inch of dust all over every single object because the dust blew across the road. And then that dust is just completely laden with pesticide, herbicide. Wouldn't you agree?
That's true. The dust was the first thing the folks in Wyoming really audit, quality. We've talked about pesticides for a long time, but as soon as the chemical companies started to really expand, they were getting dust and having to clean their homes every single day. It was in their cars, it was in the, on their picnic tables outside, the coffee table inside. It's a huge amount of toxic dust.
Let me ask you, there are several lawsuits in regard to that on Kauai right now.
That's right. Yeah. We have over 150 families have signed on to a lawsuit saying that they are receiving toxic and fugitive dust from these chemical corporations into their homes, and that it's affecting their health.
You would have to wonder what would let these people do such obviously stupid thing as to do their experiments across the street from human habitation. Why wouldn't they have started it off safe with buffer zones to begin with? I mean, if they're going to be allowed to do what they do here.
Yeah, that's a very reasonable question, and that's what we're asking for. Let's get disclosed of ag keeps records on the sales of chemicals, what's getting imported here, what's coming on the ship to the chemical companies. Let's find out what it is, where it's being sprayed, and then at least get some setbacks around the schools, the communities, the streams, and the ocean.
Okay, like I said, it's a huge experiment, and it's admittedly a huge experiment from their point of view because that's why they don't have to pay taxes, because they're doing it science. It's a huge experiment, but yet they have not, taken it into a lab to experiment. They're using the island of Kauai, Molokai, Oahu, etc. as their laboratories. And the local folks just don't get it. Jerry, if they did, they would have gotten rid of this stuff with you guys 10 years ago. When they don't get it because they just think somehow the hippies take baths every day, got nothing better to do when they're collecting their food stamps and complain. Do you hear my frustration?
Yes. I think that, people, if you just saw the corn, it looks very green, it looks very benign.
Right.
Unless you live near it, you would never know of the deep impact that it has. The sore throats, the coughing, the bloody noses. Whole families will get. Oh
my Lord! I hadn't heard that one. The whole neighborhood gets bloody noses.
That's, we've had those conversations with people on certain days. Say, wow, yeah, it was really bad that day.
What keeps these guys from putting signs on the end of sticks and doing their own, let's walk up to the hill and say, no bloody nose for me, no cancer for me? How come that hasn't gotten to that point?
Well, we are getting to that point. In March, you probably heard the marches in March. We marched on each island each Saturday of the month. And on Kauai, we had 2,000 people show up in Poipu in the rain. It was an odd South Shore rain that day, and it did not deter people. People have found their voice and are beginning to take it to the street.
I tell you what, speaking with Jerry La Pietra, and she's GMO-free Kauai, we're talking about how Kauai is getting their cooling together. Kauai kind of led the way as far as getting together as a community, Opuahi or whatever they've got going over there, and hooeying up and making their voices known and taking away the power from the politicians that got money from the corporations and trying to do what's pono for their island and for their family. And congratulations on the fortitude that you've shown and the people you work with you to do such a thing. When I get back, we're going to hear more about this GMO and the effects of it. And we're going to bring on marine biologist Jerry La Pietra. And again, show last week The fellow's been diving out of Honolulu, marine biologist, documented and found this most scariest coral disease known to mankind. And he's now leading the teams from NOAA and whatnot, showing him where and when and how. And of course, he's got time-lapse photography to show how fast this stuff would spread. And he's going to be coming on and talk to us about some of the possibilities of where this otherwise unknown coral disease is coming from. And we'll take it from there. My name is Jeff Davis. Thanks to my guests. I am the Solar Guy. If you have questions about solar, you can get to me. If you have something astute or intelligent to talk to us about, I've got one line open at 296-5467. And my show's Solar Supply. He's premier solar wholesaler. All the solar companies go there. We pick up our equipment. He's got an incredible selection of photovoltaics. He manufactures his own hot water panel. I love that. Keep the money in the state. Of course, you'll hear him BenQ Solar. That's the first AC panel. Awesome output of energy. And you'll also hear from the Enexin microinverters. Completely outpaced what we usually had used was an in-phase. Anyway, I'm your solar guy. I like that kind of stuff. You need me, you call me. I'd like to thank D.R. Horton Schuler Homes. I'd like to thank Blue Planet Foundation, Young Brothers, Hawaiian Legacy Hardwoods. You'll find these people on my website, hawaiistomorrow.com, Hawaii with an S, tomorrow.com. And you find me on Twitter and Facebook at Your Solar Guy. What am I? Oh, YouTube. Go to YouTube and or go to Google and punch in Jeff Davis, YouTube, Solar Guy. You'll see all our shows listed and produced up there, thanks to my producer, Beck. And we're looking forward to helping you folks get your messages out. Let's change the world in a better way. Let's make Hawaii's tomorrow what it can be. I'll be right back. Aloha.